You gave up a TV job to start a podcast in your basement. If that doesn't scream midlife crisis, I don't know what does.
It was Championship Sunday here in Indianapolis. What's the mindset then coming in as a defending champion?
I want to win. No, I want to win.
The young lady over my shoulder, Caitlin Clark.
Not the best looking guy. And I don't think anyone's going to sit here and say, Matt Randazzo was really good looking.
What has this last month, 2 months, 3 months been like for you? It's an important fan base for the Fighting Illini, is it not?
It is.
He turned 69 years young last week. He looked good, Coach.
Oh, Brian, thank you.
Welcome to Off the Air with Matt Randazzo here on a Wednesday in the Quad Cities. Wednesday, December 10th. It looks like December outside. It's a gloomy, snowy, rainy, nasty Wednesday, nasty hump day here in the Quad Cities. So hopefully you stay inside, you're at work or school or whatever. You're not supposed to be watching the show, but you're sneaking in and checking out Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. We appreciate you guys doing that. It looks like just a bad stretch of weather coming up. I don't get, what was I telling somebody today? I don't get as involved with the weather. I don't know it as much. Back when I worked on local TV, I heard about it 10 times a show. So I knew coming home every night, like, hey, this was going to happen. I don't keep up on it as much as I should, but it looks like Thursday there's going to be a storm. Saturday there's going to be more snow. I did see like 40s next week. So anyways, I'm not the weather guy. I don't want to be the weather guy. So enough about that. Let's get to sports. Welcome to the show. If you're watching us live on YouTube, thank you for doing that. The chat is up and going. If you got questions for guests, all those kind of things, feedback, everything we're talking about, and there's a lot to talk about today, please jump on that as well. Hopefully you're subscribed on YouTube. That helps us out a ton. We're up over 1,400 followers, or subscribers, I should say. So if you have subscribed, thank you. If you haven't, do so. Tell a friend or 2 or 10 about what we're continuing to grow here in the Quad Cities and beyond when it comes to Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. It's been a ton of fun. Getting close, less than a month away to our year anniversary of me doing this silly little show in my loft. And I don't think I'm ever going to change the Open. Andy Say at last year's Western Big Six Coaches Banquet summed it up perfectly. So I don't think that Open is ever going to change. But we've been doing it for almost a year now, and it's been a bunch of fun. We are live on X as well. X is always very, very good to us. So if you get a chance, check out X. Give us some feedback on that format as well. You can check us out on all the podcasting platforms as well. Spotify, Apple, Podbean, iHeart, wherever you get your podcasts. Type in Off the Air with Matt Randazzo and listen to the show each and every day. And of course, we always like to welcome our viewers in Central Iowa. The show can be seen on the WHO streaming app every evening at 7 p.m. And in this week, in these last couple weeks, a lot of content on this show is catered for the state of Iowa when it comes to the Cyhawks. That game coming up tonight for the women, the men tomorrow. Obviously, all the changes with the Iowa State football program. So a lot to get to on today's show. If you missed the show early in the week, Monday we had Gary Dolphin. Go check that out. One of several guests on Monday. Yesterday's show was a ton of fun. Somebody I respect a ton, Keith Murphy, one of the best in the entire business at WHO in Des Moines, joined us. So go check that out. Also, Nicholas Baer previewing the Cyhawk game for the men coming up on Thursday. Nicholas Baer, as good as it gets when it comes to break. Nicholas Baer will be on TV someday or radio somehow, some way, breaking down college basketball, because that's how good he is. Knowing the game and then articulating it. I had several people after yesterday's show saying Nicholas is really good, and they're right. I've been bugging him about that since high school. I told him from the jump that he should be doing something along these lines. So we thank Nicholas for coming on yesterday. And then we talked to the Ruckers. A cool story up at North Scott. Paul Rucker back in the program. Carly Rucker is an assistant. Paul, one of the co-head coaches. Carly won a state championship, one of the best that's ever put on a North Scott uniform. So rebuilding that program, and then the dynamic of father and daughter, and what it's like coaching together and all those kind of things. So that was a lot of fun. Go check that out as well. As for today's show, we mentioned the Cy-Hawk series, the Cy-Hawk rivalry. It takes center stage tonight in what is arguably the better of the two games. It's number 11 Iowa for the women going to number 10 Iowa State. Coach Jensen versus Coach Fenley. All the great matchups involved. Hilton Coliseum will be rocking. We'll talk with our good friend Kyle Huesmann coming up in a matter of moments about this Cy-Hawk game tonight and breaking it down maybe from the Iowa perspective of things. Then coming up later in hour number 1, probably around 10:30, 10:35, we'll chat with Jake Brend. We talk to him every Wednesday, and I feel like I could do an entire show with Jake today with everything going on with Iowa State. But obviously we'll hit on the Cy-Hawk game tonight with the women, tomorrow night's men's game. Obviously new head coach for football, Jimmy Rogers taking over. Matt Campbell is at Penn State. Today Matt Campbell took out a full-page ad in the Des Moines Register thanking Iowa State fans. So we have a ton to get to when it comes to Jake Brend. That's coming up in just a little bit. Also, later in the show, in hour number 2, the Iowa football program received a commit for the 2027 class yesterday in Bettendorf's Gavin Stecker, a really good linebacker here in the Quad Cities. He'll join us on the show around the 11 o'clock hour, maybe a little bit after that. So I'm excited to catch up with Gavin. The pipeline of linebackers from Bettendorf going to Iowa continues when you have Zach Gableman and then obviously Pat Anger and now Gavin Stecker joins that pipeline to Iowa. So we'll talk with him about why he chose the Hawkeyes, what Iowa fans can expect, and a whole bunch more. We're excited about that. And then also this morning, some sad news we'll talk a lot about later in the show. But a good friend of mine, a mentor, a legend in the Quad Cities when it comes to media and doing these kind of things. Jim Albracht passed away yesterday at the age of 74. So we'll kind of remember Jim Albracht a little bit later in the show. We had him on the show late August. And so we'll play a little bit of that for you guys and talk about what that guy, if there's a Mount Rushmore of media personalities from the Quad Cities ever, Jim's on it. He just is. From TV to radio to Steam Wheelers play-by-play to Iowa pregame radio, all the things that he did, and he did it with a great smile on his face. So we'll talk much more about Jim Albracht and his legacy coming up later in the show. Hopefully you guys will stick around for that as well. Sports last night, the Illinois Fighting Illini basketball team continues to play really good basketball. They win at Ohio State in their Big Ten opener, 88-80 the final in that one. So balanced scoring. They're continuing to get contributions from everyone, including the young freshman Wagner did fantastic last night. So Illinois gets a victory as well. So they now have another game with Nebraska, and then they got that Missouri showdown coming up before the holidays as well. So Illinois, number 13 in the nation, continuing to win impressive games early on in the season. High school-wise, full slate in the MAC. I had a blast on MC22 last night with my great friend John Marks calling the Davenport North Central DeWitt girls-boys doubleheader. It was Central DeWitt cruising in the girls' game. Ryan O'Brien's team is really good once again. They lost Lauren Walker off of last year's team. She's at Northern Iowa playing basketball now, but everybody else is back almost, and they were really impressive. So I was impressed with the Sabres, and the boys' game went down to the wire. Davenport North winning that by one. But I think they're two teams, in Davenport North and Central DeWitt, that'll have plenty of say in the MAC. It's a very competitive conference. In fact, last night, what did I see? Muscatine beating North Scott. So ton of great action in the MAC last night. Western Big Six was Rock Island got a victory. United Township knocked off Alleman. Moline winning, and then maybe the surprise or the eye-catching score from last night, it was Geneseo going down to Quincy and knocking off the Blue Devils. So congratulations to TJ Lacey, first-year head coach at Geneseo. The Maple Leafs playing good basketball early in the season, going down to that place. I don't care if Quincy's down or lost a lot from last year. Going down, making that trip, and beating that program. Hats off to Geneseo. They're back at home on Friday night. I know that as well. So a lot to get to on today's show. Really excited you guys are with us, and don't go anywhere. And if you're not, go tell some people to join in on the fun as well, because we're going to start off talking Iowa State. So let's talk about tonight's big game with the Hawkeye Report's Kyle Huesmann. We've been talking about this one for a while. Game day's finally here. You're getting ready to go to Ames as we speak. Should be a fantastic night for basketball.
Yeah, I'm super excited for this game. Like you said, this is one that we've kind of had, and really every year you circle this game on the calendar, whether it's Iowa City or Ames, because you look back over the years and both programs have been really good. So this has always been kind of a highly anticipated early season game to where you learn a lot about both sides and what might be to come for conference play. But I'm super excited for it. I mean, we're going to get into it up and down the lineups. I think there's a lot of like super fun matchups that just how they play out could decide the game. And I think it's going to be a great 4-quarter battle. I mean, 10 versus 11. I mean, that kind of is the sign that it's going to be a really close game. But I do think this is going to be one of those games that you get into the fourth quarter and it's going to be a 2-3 possession game. And it's going to come down to those little things, who makes the big play or two down the stretch to win the game. And I really think it is a coin flip matchup, but it's going to be a really fun one tonight.
Kyle, you look at it, and this is a big rivalry. Two great programs, two coaches that know absolutely what they're doing. But it's a top 10 showdown, kind of. I mean, it's a top 11 showdown. That both programs are really good, but I can't think back to one maybe as equally matched up as this one, where you look at it and both teams undefeated, both teams playing really good basketball. You look at what Iowa did this past weekend against Rutgers, and I know Rutgers is down, but then you look at like what Iowa State's been doing to programs as they've been playing this season. That's the thing that stands out to me, is that these are two really good and almost equally matched programs right now.
Yeah, I know. What is this? My fifth Cyhawk game? I don't even know how many I've done, but I think, going back to the first one I covered in Ames, Iowa State had Ashley Jones and then obviously Caitlin and Monica and, all the players on that team. That was a pretty evenly matched one. I think Iowa State ended up winning by 7 in that one. And then after that, I mean, Iowa State was still good, but, Iowa had, Caitlin and, Kate and Gabby and all those players. And it was kind of like Iowa was the favorite going in those games, even though Iowa State was still good. And then you hit Caitlin's senior year, and that was when Iowa State was kind of changing to the core that they have now. They're a really young team. That was a close game, but it wasn't expected to be that close. Last year was expected to be a pretty good game, but Iowa State was certainly the favorite last year, with them being where they were in the preseason rankings. But yeah, I would say this one and Caitlin's sophomore year, and I don't know what it was expected her freshman year when Iowa made that, what was like a 15, 18 point comeback in the fourth quarter of that COVID season.
Yeah.
But in terms of the ones that I've covered, that sophomore year Caitlin team that lost in Ames, and this year the two that, in my opinion, were the two that you really went in saying this is a coin flip either way. And I really do believe that this one is a coin flip tonight.
When you look, we talked about going up and down the lineups. Both teams really good, great matchups. Is there a matchup that stands out the most? I mean, Audie Crooks is probably the National Player of the Year right now, arguably the National Player of the Year, and Ava Hayden is arguably Iowa's best player right now. Is that where we start in this one? Does it have to start inside with that matchup?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I think, I said this, I did a recording for the radio yesterday. We talked about that matchup, that Audie Crooks versus Ava Hayden. I said, there's going to be a ton. I mean, it's on ESPN, so this is a big game tonight. There's going to be people tuning in that are just watching just because it's a big game. Like, obviously there's Iowa State fans that'll be watching, but there's going to be people that are going to turn it on that see, Iowa State women's basketball. Like, this is a highly ranked game on ESPN. And the reason those people are going to turn it on, this matchup, the Audie Crooks versus Ava Hayden matchup, that's going to be the first matchup in both starting lineups that people draw to, and deservedly so. Like you said, Audie Crooks is, Hannah Hidalgo has been really good at Notre Dame. I think she's second in the country in scoring behind Audie Crooks, and obviously we know what Hidalgo can do with her defensive abilities. But Audie Crooks, I mean, is averaging almost 28 points a game. She isn't like an elite rebounder, but still averaging 6 rebounds a game. Just phenomenal around the basket. Her efficiency is incredible. I would agree that she'd probably be on the short list, top 2 or 3 for National Player of the Year if you had to pick one right now. Certainly a lot of basketball left. But then you talk about Ava Hayden. I mean, the way that she's played right now, averaging 16 points and 9.5 rebounds a game, she seems well on her way to all Big Ten honors. So, I mean, there's you start talking about a potential National Player of the Year, potential All-American center going up against a potential All Big Ten center. That's certainly a matchup that people are going to draw to. And I think the great part about this matchup is not just that they're two really good post players, but it's going to be really interesting to see how they play because they're very different post players, right? I mean, Audie Crooks is obviously more of your traditional post player, really strong, really hard to push off that block, just does a great job of getting position down there and scoring. And Ava Hayden is kind of more of, what it seems like post play has moved to over the last, half decade or so, where you want them to be able to play off the block a little bit, and be able to hit that short corner jump shot and be able to maybe dribble a few times from the free throw line. I think Ava Hayden has the speed and athleticism to play the 4 if she were able to, add some perimeter shooting to her game. I don't know if that's what they're going to do during her time at Iowa, but I think she has, the basic skill set to be able to do something like that. So it's a very different matchup with Audie being that very traditional post player, and Ava Hayden is certainly a center, but just a little bit different. They're different players in terms of the skill set they have. So I think that's going to be the really interesting matchup, is to see, because they are so different, who is able to kind of use their skill set to go against the other and counter the other player. But I mean, like I said, you look at this lineup, I think there's a lot of great matchups. I'd assume Kylie Feuerbach will be the one guarding Jada Williams, the Arizona transfer. That's the point guard for Iowa State. I assume that'll be Kylie on her. I think Addie Brown against Hannah Stolke is going to be a fantastic matchup. I think Addie Brown's one of the more versatile forwards in the country, with her ability to not only score and shoot from the perimeter and score in the paint, but she also averages 9 rebounds a game and has 6 assists a game. I mean, she those averages 12.5 points, 9 rebounds, and 6 assists a game. That's triple double territory almost every night, which is pretty incredible to see out of a forward like Addie Brown. And I think Hannah Stolke is kind of one of the players to watch tonight. Hasn't quite gotten clicking this season, like maybe we expected. But this is a game that 10 versus 11 road environment. Hannah Stolke's a veteran on this team. She's been to Final Four. She's played in Final Fours. To win a game like tonight, you need your best players to be your best players. And even though Hannah hasn't maybe looked like one of Iowa's best players right now, she is one of Iowa's best players. And they're going to need her to have a good game tonight, not only offensively, but defensively against Addie Brown. And then the other matchup I look at, not necessarily from a defensive standpoint, but Taylor McCabe and Kenzie Hare are probably the 2 top 3-point shooters. Taylor McCabe is certainly the top 3-point shooter for Iowa. And Kenzie Hare, you could say that it's Ariana Jackson as well. I mean, Iowa State's shooting the 3 ball really well right now. But Kenzie Hare is also a really good 3-point shooter. I would assume that McCabe and Hare will be on each other maybe defensively. But that's kind of the other matchup that I'm looking at. Just who's the one that makes. I mean, certainly Taylor McCabe can make 4 or 5. She can make 6 threes in a game. She gets it going. And I think Kenzie Hare is kind of the same way. Was a fantastic 3-point shooter at Marquette as a sophomore. I think led the Big East and made threes at Marquette, and then was out for the season after 10 games last year at Iowa State. So like I said, up and down the lineup, and then you start talking about people off the bench. This is, like I said, really evenly matched game. Lots of matchups that you can really break down and say, what happens if so and so wins this matchup? What happens if so and so wins this matchup? Like I said, I think I said this like a week ago when we talked. This is one of the games that I really love to talk about, because you can look at any matchup, any stat, and there's something to break down and talk about. This isn't some non-conference game where you go, this team's averaging 60 points a game, Iowa's going to beat them by 30, that type of thing. Yeah. There's just so much to talk about with this game.
Kyle Huesmann from the Hawkeye Report joining us right now. I will overlook the fact that you're on other radio shows and doing other stuff. I thought we were exclusive. I thought that, but hey, that's fine. I won't bring that up. I'll let that go. You didn't mention, or we have at the beginning a little bit, but all those matchups we talked about. I mean, the big news for Iowa is Chit Chat Wright will be back, I think, tonight. Your thoughts? What does Iowa expect from her? Is it easing back into the lineup, or is it she's back? Let's go. Let's see what she can do.
Yeah, I think the plan at Rutgers was for her to start, and I don't know how many minutes they were going to have her play. If she was going to play 30 minutes, whatever. I think the way that game ended up going, she probably wouldn't have played a full load of minutes just because they wouldn't have needed her to. But basically what happened, she got hit in the face early in that game. And it sounded like it wasn't. I guess they probably did concussion tests, whatever they normally do. But it sounded like they just kind of held her out of the game for very precautionary reasons. I'm assuming because by the time she was cleared to go back in, Iowa probably already had like a 20-point lead. So it was one of those hey, there's no reason to do this. We got Iowa State coming up, whatever. So it sounds like that was very, very precautionary, just because of the score and stuff. They kind of held her out. The one thing that I am slightly concerned with is you go back to the Baylor game. I think she played like the first 40 seconds of the second half against Baylor. So in 6-7 minutes against Rutgers. So since the halftime of the Baylor game, she's played 7-8 minutes of real game time. So she's been out a while. it'll be interesting to see how she gets in the flow of this game. She played at Georgia Tech last year. They played in the NCAA tournament, so it's not like she hasn't been in a big game. And certainly not a player from what I've seen through the early part of the season, what I watched, of her time at Georgia Tech, not someone that's going to shy away from a big moment. I do think, and what we've talked about with Chit Chat all year, her calmness, she doesn't force shots. She doesn't really seem to force passes that much. I mean, she doesn't turn it over very much. I think her ability to stay calm and really take what's given to her inside the offense is something that I was really going to need tonight. Because you look at the other side, Iowa State does not turn the ball over very much. I think just 11, 12 times a game. And Iowa has done a much better job since the season opener when they turned it over 20, 25 times against Southern. They've been pretty good since. I think since that game, they're averaging like 14 and a half turnovers a game. So way better. But still, to have Chit Chat in the lineup, and if she can come out and do that where she's able to rack up 5, 6, 7 assists and only 1 or 2 turnovers, that's big. But also her ability to take what's given to her in terms of not driving into the lane and throwing up a wild shot or trying to pull up contested jumper. She does a really good job of, okay, the shot's here from 3, they sagged off the screen, I'm just going to take the 3. She take what's given to her on the offensive end in terms of her shot attempts, and I think that's what Iowa needs in a game like this, is not someone that's gonna try to dribble drive it in and make it happen, but maybe it's a dribble drive, and instead of throwing up the shot, it's like, okay, let's just kick it back out and move the offense around. I think they need her calmness in the lineup tonight, and hopefully the fact that she hasn't played in a while and played real minutes a while is not, hopefully there's no rust to knock off, because in a road environment, I assume it's sold out tonight. They're going to need to get off to maybe not a hot start, but a good start. It can't be one of those games where Chit Chat's a little rusty, turned it over a couple times, and all of a sudden they're down 15 to 6 or something like that. It can't be that type of game. So I'm excited to see Chit Chat back. I've been very impressed with her this year. But I do think that her calmness that she has on the offensive end could be very big tonight.
The matchups on the floor are great. The matchups on the sideline, great as well. Bill Fenley, obviously from the Quad City area, a legend at Iowa State. He's done it at a high level for a long time, and Coach Jensen's doing a fantastic job at the University of Iowa. It's hard to dissect a coaching matchup, if you will. But these two coaches impact the game in so many different ways, and in-game prep or before the game prep, and then in-game play calling, all those kind of things. Your thoughts on this matchup? Because when you're looking at the sport of women's basketball, these are two of the best coaches you're going to find, not just in the Midwest, but in the country.
Right, and I think, you look at it and you see, I believe Bill Fenley's in his 31st season at Iowa State. He's been there, and I can't remember right off the top of my head where he coached before Iowa State, but he's been coaching for an incredibly long time, and like I said, 31 years at Iowa State, and people are going to look at it and go, oh, Jan Jensen's in year 2. She's not in year 2. She was been at Iowa for what is it, like 25, 26 years now. So Bill Fenley has the head coaching experience at Iowa State with the 31 years, but Jan's been in Iowa for nearly as long. And you go back to Drake, she's been coaching just as long. And we heard Jan talk about, in her time under Lisa Bluter, especially the back half of her time with Lisa Bluter, she was as close to a head coach as you can be. She was the associate head coach, just really close. She wasn't making the final decision, but she had so much input that at times it felt like she was about as close to a head coach as you can be. So she's got plenty of experience as well. But as you mentioned, I mean, when you talk about, obviously, like there's the Gina Oriemas and the Dawn Staleys and Kim Mulkey. But Bill Fenley is not far out of that conversation in terms of, the longevity, the success that he's had. I think they made 23 NCAA tournaments in 31 years. I don't know off the top of my head if they've made an Elite Eight. I don't believe they made a Final Four, but just the over and over success of being competitive in the Big 12, making the NCAA tournament. He's done a lot at Iowa State, and Jan has done a lot as an assistant coach at Iowa, and now she's trying to do that at the head coaching level. But as you mentioned, it is down to the players on the court. They have to execute the game plan. They got to, grab the rebound. They got to knock down the 3. They have to not turn it over, whatever. But the decisions they make, whether it's when to run a set, when it's, who to sag off of on the defense, that pregame game planning on, what are we going to try to do to limit, Audie Crooks, try to limit a Hannah Stoley, try to limit an Ava Hyde. And those are the decisions, the game plans that can really have a big impact. And I'm really excited to see what both teams try to do. From a defensive standpoint against the other team, because there's weapons up and down the lineup. And from Iowa's perspective, Audie Crooks is going to score. I think she scored in double figures in 77 of 78 games in her career. So she doesn't really have, an off night where it's, hey, she was like 5 of 20 or something like that. You don't have one of those nights. She generally is going to score 15, 20 points still. So try to limit her as much as possible. But I think the big thing for Iowa is how they defend the perimeter, because Iowa State's shooting the 3 ball really well. Averaging 9 threes a game, like 37.5% as a team. They're top 3-point shooters that have all made 10, 15, 23s. You look at them, and it's not like 23 shooting 30%. It's 23 shooting 50% and 18 threes shooting 45%. They're shooting very well from 3-point range. So how Iowa defends the perimeter is going to be big. But yeah, the coaching staff, and I think it gets lost a lot of times on, everybody's, like you said, talking about the positional matchups and who's going to do this, who's going to do that. But how they put together a game plan. That's not even just the head coaches, but the whole coaching staff, the game plan that they put in, and then the in-game adjustments after the first quarter, at halftime, after the third quarter. What plays do you run late in the fourth quarter? The coaching staffs have as much ability to change games as the players do.
Absolutely. Kyle, I want to get a prediction from you. I got to talk a few other things with you, but give me an X factor. Give me something maybe under the radar, that a matchup, an interesting matchup that you're kind of, we talked about those main ones, and obviously Crooks versus Hayden is the marquee matchup. Give me an X factor where keep an eye on this as this game goes on.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna go with Hannah Stolke again. I really think she's the player that, and she's still averaging 11.5 points a game. So it's not like she's been bad in terms of scoring, but she just hasn't really gotten clicking. And she's playing at a position that she hasn't played a full season at before. But we just haven't seen, the 3-point shooting really hasn't panned out yet. She's just 2 of 9. The free throw shooting has really, really gone down a little bit. I think she was 64 or 65% last year, shooting under 60% to start this season. So it just hasn't gotten clicking for her. She's rebounded very well. But again, I said, Hannah Stolke is one of the best players on this Iowa team. It may not look like it right now. She may be, having some inconsistent performances, but she is still to me, the best athlete on this team. Obviously, what she can do in transition, things like that. She is one of the best players on this team. And tonight, she can't have what just happened the other night against Rutgers, where she goes for 3 points, doesn't make a shot. I think she was 0 for 3, 0 for 4. Can't finish with 3 points and 7 rebounds tonight. That just can't be the stat line for her. She needs to come out, and she maybe doesn't need to lead the team in scoring tonight, but has to have good defense on Addie Brown. There's definitely going to be a stretch where Hannah Stolke is going to be on Audie Crooks. I think there should be, because Hannah did a pretty good job late in the fourth quarter last year of fronting Audie Crooks and breaking up some passes they tried to get to her. So I think there's going to be a stretch where Hannah's on Audie Crooks tonight. And then offensively, Hannah needs to be able to score in double figures tonight. So you asked for kind of that under the radar player. Hannah Stolke's not an under the radar player, but I think the way that she's been playing at the beginning of this year, we've been talking a ton about Ava Hayden. We've been talking a ton about what Taylor McKay has been able to do. We've talked a ton about Chit Chat Wright when she has been available and playing. Haven't talked as much about Hannah Stolke. Like I said, veteran. She's from Cedar Rapids. She knows a lot about this rival. She grew up, watching Iowa State, I'm sure. She grew up a Hawkeye. She's a senior now. This is her last time playing Iowa State. She needs to be ready to go tonight and needs to have a good game tonight.
Kyle, in this series, it's been all Iowa of late. 8-9, I believe, the Hawkeyes have won in the series. And Keith Murphy was on the show yesterday and mentioned that that's not lost on the Cyclones, and that this is a big deal. They want this game badly because of the way Iowa's handled the series of late. Iowa obviously wants this game badly as well. It's a rivalry game. But there, I think, is something to a little motivation with Iowa State hasn't been able to get over the hump very often against the Hawkeyes. And it's been an Iowa series. And then you look on the opposite way. When it comes to the Cy-Hawk series this year, Iowa State is doing a fantastic job winning in football, winning in wrestling, so on and so forth. So motivation-wise, I think both teams are motivated, but your thoughts on Iowa winning 8 of the last 9 games in the series? It's something that with this amount of talent, you'd think it'd be a little closer than the 8 out of 9 that Iowa's won.
Yeah, I think first off, the funny part, I don't expect anything else. You talk to players, you talk to both coaching staffs before the game, and it's always, this is a big game, like it's a rivalry game, we want to win. But and Jan said it as well, it is a non-conference game, right? This game, win or lose, doesn't matter in the Big Ten standings, and that's what controls your season is, what you do in the Big Ten and, how you seed for the Big Ten tournament and things like that, and where you finish in the Big Ten can do a lot for NCAA tournament seeding. The ramifications for this game, win or lose, are not really that big, right? It's not a bad loss because both teams are highly ranked. It would be a good win if you get it, but both teams play in good enough conference, and certainly Iowa in the Big Ten with as many good teams as there are. You lose tonight, it realistically doesn't mean a lot. But I don't want to hear any of that. This is a huge game. This is Iowa State. It's a Cy-Hawk rivalry. There's no way that both sets of players, both rosters of players, and both coaching staffs are like, yeah, it's just another game. It's not just another game. This is 10 versus 11. This is the Cy-Hawk rivalry. And as you mentioned, Iowa's won 8 of the last 9. They want to make it 9 of 10. They want to continue that trend of Iowa State's been a really good program, but guess what? We continue to win. Ranked, unranked, Ames, Iowa City, we just keep winning. That's what they want to say. On Iowa State's side, it's kind of what you just said. They've lost 8 of the last 9, but they've been good enough that they shouldn't have lost 8 of the last 9, and they don't want to lose a 9th game in 10 times. And I think this is a really big game for Iowa State because you go back a couple years ago. Iowa State with their freshman Audie Crooks, freshman Addie Brown, they take Iowa to the wire in Ames. That's a Caitlin team that went to the national championship game. And everybody watched that game and went, wow, this is going to be next year, this is going to be a good Iowa State team. When Audie Crooks, when Addie Brown are juniors and seniors, that's going to be a top 5, top 10 team in the country. Last year, they start preseason number 8. Very disappointing. They go 23-12. They sneak into the NCAA tournament. They win their first 4 games. They lose in the first round to Michigan, 1-9 against ranked teams. This year, yeah, they're up there again. They're ranked 10th in the country right now, 10-0. They have not been tested. They played an Indiana team. That's their toughest game. That's probably middle of the pack in the Big Ten. So, yes, they're 10-0. They're ranked number 10 in the country. But if they lose tonight, all of a sudden you start looking at last year. 1-9 against ranked teams last year. Really fell short of expectations. First big opportunity to kind of prove that you can be that type of team with this roster. If you lose, the skepticism is going to be there. Is this team just going to continually fall short? I think this team is way better than probably the narrative out there about them right now. But this is a huge game for Iowa State to try to prove it. And for the other end on Iowa, I think there's probably a group of people out there that watched that Iowa-Baylor game and said, man, that was just a terrible basketball game, like 57-52. Neither team looked like a top 15 game in that one. Iowa wants to go out and prove and beat a top 10 Iowa State team on the road tonight and say, okay, that Baylor game wasn't a fluke. It wasn't us just winning a messy game. We're a top 15 team. That is what Jan Jensen and this team wants to come out of the game saying is we can prove that we are a top 15 team. So I think both sides, there's a ton of motivation. They can say all this about, it's not the Big 12, it's not the Big 10. It is just another non-conference game, but it's not just another non-conference game.
Kyle, it's funny. Jake Brend will join us in the next segment. He said a few weeks ago, for Bill Fenley's group, this is an Elite 8 or bust type of team, he feels like, because of the talent. And there is some frustrations because it's been a while since they've been past the Sweet 16 level. So, and the talent is there. And the expectations have been high in the past, and they're high once again this season. Okay, Kyle, before we let you go, give me a prediction. Give me a score. What happens tonight at Hilton Coliseum? You said several times it's a 50-50 coin toss. Have you done the 50-50 coin toss like 10 times and figured out who wins, or give me that prediction?
I did not flip a coin 10 times. I wish I had like an Iowa State coin like they have for football games and stuff to flip. But I think, like I said, I think this is going to be a 4-quarter game. I think it's going to come down to the wire, and we can talk about whatever stats we want to talk about, but generally when a game comes down to the last 5 minutes, last 10 minutes, whatever, the last minute of the game, it's about who grabs that, who clears the glass on the defensive end for a couple of big possessions. Who's the one that scrapes out an extra, who's the one that scrapes out that offensive rebound that you kick out for a 3, that big 3 that, like, if they would have just cleared the defensive glass, maybe that 3 doesn't happen. Who turns it over an extra, whatever the turnover battle is tonight, let's say it ends at 15-11. Who's the one that turned it over 15 times and gave the other team 4 extra possessions because the other team only turned it over 11 times? When you talk about it being that 1, 2, 3 possession game at the end, it comes down to those things. Who won in the second chance points? Who won in the turnover battle? Who won in the points off turnovers? Maybe it's a team that did a really good job, turning their turnovers that they forced into points. And maybe they didn't win the turnover battle, but maybe they still won the points off turnovers. Those are all that, those two, rebounding, the second chance points and points off turnovers. Any close game, that's what I look at, because it always seems like whoever wins that close game, they won that as well. I picked Iowa State prior to the season. I picked Iowa to beat Baylor down in Orlando in my preseason prediction article. And I turned around and I said, okay, another coin flip with Iowa State. I don't think I didn't think they were going to beat UConn. I still don't think Iowa probably beats UConn. But I said, is Iowa really going to win every single coin flip, especially with Iowa State losing 8 of the last 9? It just feels like they're due, especially at home at Hilton Coliseum. And so that was my preseason prediction. I had Iowa losing at Iowa State. Again, coin flip game. And I said, feels like Iowa State's due. Iowa's probably not going to win every coin flip in non-conference play. And again, that was with some preseason questions with how are they going to look in non-conference play. But I look at this matchup now, and has either team been dramatically different than from what I thought in the preseason? And I don't think they're different enough for me to switch my prediction. Iowa State's, doing just a little bit better at limiting turnovers. They have a little bit more 3-point shooting depth. Their 3-point percentage as a team is a bit higher, and they're shooting it better at the free throw line. And free throw shooting can be something that can be very big down the stretch of a close game as well. So, like I said, this is a coin flip. I think you talk about Iowa just making one play or two play in my head as I run this game through. Iowa makes one or two plays more in my head, they win the game. I think that's how close it is. But the fact that Iowa State's just slightly better at limiting turnovers, a little bit more depth from 3-point shooting, and shooting it a little bit better at the free throw line. I've got Iowa State 74-72. I think there's people that are going to disagree with me and say, you're the Iowa writer, you're picking Iowa State, whatever. But honestly, 74-72, that's one or two possessions throughout the course of a game that sure. Changed that. So I think it could be either team. I think anywhere between 6 to 8 points either way. Iowa State could win by 6 to 8. Iowa could win by 6 to 8. It could be somewhere in the middle of that, even closer, 1 to 2 point game. I think that's what it's going to be, and I wouldn't be surprised either way. So I think it's going to be a really close game, really good game. But like I said, I don't think anything has dramatically changed from my preseason projection of what I thought of both teams for me to switch at this point. But this is the time of year where I start to kind of leave the preseason projections in the past and start evaluating because obviously you get in the Big Ten play, teams are vastly different. There's teams that surprise, teams that don't surprise, whatever. But I just don't think that Iowa State is dramatically different from what I thought in the preseason to switch away from my Iowa State pick.
It'll be a good one. Hilton Coliseum, 6 o'clock tip-off. Kyle Huesmann will be in the house for coverage on the Hawkeye Report. And, of course, you're sticking around for Thursday, I believe, as well, and helping the old guy up there as well. He's got a bad back. It's not from carrying the Hawkeye Report because he gets carried the majority of the time. But help him out on Thursday. Travel safe. Enjoy Ames, if there's such a thing as enjoying Ames. And we'll catch up with you again real soon. I appreciate you, Kyle.
Yeah, thanks for having me on the show.
All right, that is Kyle Huesmann with the Hawkeye Report. It is a big couple days here in Ames, Iowa at Hilton Coliseum tonight. The ladies taking center stage, and Keith Murphy talked about it yesterday, and I think he's right. I don't know what's going to happen tonight between the Hawkeyes and the Cyclones. I have an idea of what might happen tomorrow night. I don't know for sure, and it'll be a fascinating game to watch, but this is the one that Kyle mentioned, it's a coin flip. So we'll see what happens tonight. Make sure you're locked into the Hawkeye Report. Kyle's got all your coverage there as well. We got more to get to coming up after the break. It's Wednesday, which means we talk Cyclones every Wednesday with Jake Brend. But this Wednesdays is like a very important Wednesday because we do have the Cyhawk to talk about. Plus, there's a new football coach. Matt Campbell's in Penn State. There's an ad taken out in the Des Moines Register today, a thank you ad. There's a lot to get to when it comes to Cyclone athletics. Jake Brend is next right here on OTA. We'll be right back. All right, be honest. Are you craving Hungry Hobo again? You know, that fresh sliced meat piled high on those amazing sandwiches, hot off the grill chicken and steak with all those delicious toppings, the biggest and best selection of baked potatoes, or simply some waffle fries dipped in cheese. Well, now that Quad City favorite is even easier to get. Download the Hungry Hobo app today. Order ahead, skip the line, and earn rewards all at the same time. There's Double Points Monday and exclusive specials as well. With 12 locations in the Quad City area, it's Hungry Hobo, now even easier to find, but still hard to resist.
Rafferty Funeral Home, dedicated to serving families in the Quad Cities since 2007.
Hi, welcome. Yeah, come on in.
An experienced staff plans each service to reflect the unique life and legacy of your loved one. Rafferty Funeral Home is proud to serve our community with dignity, respect, and compassion, helping you to celebrate your traditions and lasting memories no matter your faith, culture, or budget. Rafferty Funeral Home in Moline. Call today to discuss prearrangements.
When it comes to quality, convenient pizza, Godfather's Pizza in Silvis has you covered. Featuring a beautiful dine-in area, delivery, and a carry-out window. Godfather's Pizza is that pizza you grew up with, not a convenience store. You see, at Godfather's Pizza, the dough is made fresh daily. That mozzarella cheese is shredded fresh and never frozen. And those toppings are abundantly piled high, each and every time. Locally owned and operated since 2010, Godfathers is a huge supporter of local athletes right here in the Quad Cities. So come on by and check them out at 1211 Avenue of the Cities in Silvis. Order online at godfathers.com and reunite with that same delicious pizza you grew up with. Welcome back to Off the Air with Matt Randazzo here on a Wednesday in the Quad Cities. It's been a wild week in Ames, Iowa when it comes to athletics and football and new coaches and big victories for the men and now the Cy-Hawk. And I don't know if there's been a busier person in the entire state of Iowa than this young man right here. If I would have told you last Wednesday, Jake, that you were about to endure on the week that was, you would have thought I was nuts, wouldn't you?
Yeah. I wouldn't have believed you. And it's just getting started. We got Cy-Hawk the next 2 days.
It's nuts. I don't even know where to start. I want to start football, I think. I know we just got done talking Cy-Hawk with Kyle Huesmann. We'll talk about the next 2 nights at the Hilton in a second, but it started last Thursday, I believe, with word of first and foremost, Keith Murphy was on the show yesterday. He says that you continue to make fun of, badger him about winning the Sportscaster of the Year. He's blocked you on all the apps and his phone. Is it gotten that bad?
I got to give a shout out to Keith. So these last few days have been unbelievable, and I truly don't think I went to a wedding in between all of this on Saturday night. Outside of that, where there was a blizzard, outside of that, I don't think I'd thought of anything not job or Iowa State related since last Thursday. And I'd gotten 4 different text messages on what do you want for Christmas. And I about had a mental breakdown because I'm like, I can't even think. So I texted Keith, Keith, send me 5 books. Just send me 5 books to read. And he did that. And I sent it to all these people okay, just get me this book. And it truly helped a lot. So I got to give a shout out to Keith at that, because it's just been one of those weeks where you wake up, get 4 hours of sleep, work all day, go to sleep, do it all over again. And it's why you do this. But man, it's a lot. So
you told me that Keith Murphy can't read. That's one of the things you said. You said he's dumb and he can't even read, and he's giving you book advice. That's always nice. No, I can't. First off, going to a wedding, I don't know who got married and bless them, but they must be related or your best friend or something, because what was going on was amazing. I remember reaching out to you over the weekend just to get on the radar. That was, and I felt bad even reaching out. I'm like, I don't expect anything. And obviously there was a presser on Monday announcing Jimmy Rogers as the new head coach. Take me through how this developed for you. I talked to Keith about it yesterday. When did you start hearing rumors, rumblings? And then obviously when private planes are coming to the area and all those kind of things, that's when things heat up pretty quickly. How did it come to fruition for you?
Yeah, so I'd actually, on Thursday, I don't even remember what I did last week. I don't remember. I just remember that it was a busy Monday through Wednesday for some reason. And then I'm like, I just got to get to Thursday. And I was truly going to have a day off. I wasn't going to do our daily clone. I was going to push that to Friday. There was no basketball availability or anything like that. So I went down to my hometown and ran a couple errands, and I was going to get dinner with my family. And I run all my errands, and in that hour of driving around doing stuff, I get home and I start getting some texts and some rumors start floating around. And that's when I realize, this is a little different than it's been before. So then that entire night was essentially just plain watch. It was, what are we hearing? It was, what are our sources saying? And I knew that next day when I'd go up to the Sukkot basketball complex to talk to TJ Otzelberger and the players about their game against Purdue, I knew that I might not leave Ames for a while, so I brought my podcast equipment and stuff with me. And then I sat in the Jacobson building pretty much from 10 a.m. to midnight.
Wow.
All day. And funny story, I was about to leave at 5 because it just didn't seem like anything was happening. And we'd been seeing some rumblings of, oh, this could take the entire weekend, even though we were 99% sure that he was going to leave. And then that's when I get the text that there's a players only meeting coming up. And that's when we decided it was real. And I was going to go walk out to because we were in if you aren't familiar with the facilities at Iowa State, the Jacobson building's kind of the athletic administration office. It's kitty cornered to the football facility. So I was going to go walk over to the football facility, have my camera ready for when Campbell walked in, maybe talk to a couple players as they walked in. And as I walked out, Campbell was walking into the Jacobson building. So I follow right back in. He goes into Jamie Pollard's office, and the rest is kind of history after that.
Wow. I asked Keith yesterday, and I think he gave a pretty good answer, but I want to ask you, why was Penn State the one? And we've talked about opportunities, and Keith kind of made note of this. People think that he's had all these offers, and yes, there's been some probably, but a lot of opportunities, a lot of hearsay that never came about when it came to Matt Campbell leaving Ames. Why do you think this was the right one at the right time for him to, because he wasn't going to leave for just anything. Right. What was it about Penn State that obviously made it different?
Well, I think a lot of us media, a lot of fans have always said that we thought Campbell's going to be here a long time. But if a Notre Dame, if a Michigan, if a Penn State opened up, that might be time to worry. And what do all those places have in common? Midwest. He's a Midwest guy. He's an Ohio guy. It's really close to his family. And you can win a national championship there. Like, that's what it comes down to. Matt Campbell took Iowa State football to new heights. He raised not just the floor, he raised the ceiling. He raised everything. That was his motto. That was what's on the poster his first year, raise the standard. He did that. I don't think there's any coach out there that could raise the standard enough to expect a national championship. That's what he's going to get at Penn State, and he's going to have the resources to be able to do it. He's going to have the fan support, the administration support, and he's going to have the expectations behind it. And I think that's what it comes down to for Campbell going off to State College.
It was one of those things where it wasn't going to be any job. It was going to be one of those jobs, and that was Penn State was. I want to talk about today because he took out a ad in the newspaper in the Des Moines Register, I believe, and it was really well done. I've seen it online. You can go check it out online. It kind of talks about, I mean, the ad doesn't, but it kind of shows to the connection between him and this community. And you go back right. and you saw the emotion with Jamie Pollard. You saw it with Matt Campbell in his introductory press conference at Penn State. You saw it from fans. You saw it from media. Like there was an emotional connection between that man and that community that I don't know if a lot of people outside of that community or outside of the fan base understand. Can you talk to it? And then maybe on top of that, doesn't surprise you that he would take the time to take out a full-page ad to thank a community that meant a lot to him for the last 10 years. I thought it was a classy move on his part. The connection between the community and Matt Campbell's pretty strong, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. And knowing Campbell, that decision was not easy for him. The opportunity might have been easy for him to accept that, like, I want this next challenge, but it was not easy for him to decide that he wanted to leave Iowa State, that he wanted to leave Ames. The decision to say, hey, I want to be the next football coach at Penn State, that might have been easy, but the leaving part and the decision to leave was absolutely not. And you can tell through that letter, you can tell through his 2.5-minute thank you during his opening press conference, you can tell just how hard that was. And it is because of he built that thing from the ground up, and he did it with the fans. And that was a massive reason he came to Iowa State in the first place. When he was the head coach at Toledo in 2014, he stepped into Jack Trice Stadium for a team that was bad, a team that was horrible. And the stadium was full, the tailgating lots were full, and he thought that was a place that he could go. And for 10 years, he gave Iowa State fans the best years of their life when it comes to watching football. And the 95% of the fan base will never forget that. They'll always be grateful for that. And the way that Campbell talked in that letter, the way that he talked in the press conference, it wouldn't shock me one day to see Matt Campbell be Dan McCarney and be a guy who flies into Ames twice a season and embraces whoever the coach is in the year 2030 or in the year, sorry, not 2030, that's too soon, in the year 2040, the year 2050, because Campbell truly does mean that much to the community, and it's a very mutual thing.
It was crazy as maybe on the outside a little more looking in. You know, some of these you leave and you just got done seeing what happened at Ole Miss. And I obviously, different situation. Campbell there a lot longer, much more classier of a human being probably than Lane Kiffin. So I don't want to compare the two, but in today's day of college football, usually when a coach leaves town, there's a lot of upset people behind. I thought it was 95%. Everything I saw on social media was thank you, coach, not something else you coach, if that makes any sense. It was more positive than negative. And I think that goes to show a lot about what happened. In all of this, he leaves. And then, and you mentioned, gosh, I don't know if it was recently you mentioned any good athletic director has a list ready to go when it comes to what's next. I don't even know what we were talking about, but it was recently on the show you brought, and hey, you got a good athletic director because Jamie Pollard had that list, and I can't fathom it being any faster. Were you surprised how quickly it was? Thank you, Matt Campbell. Welcome, Jimmy Rogers.
In the moment, absolutely. I was stunned. But throughout the day, the reason that I thought this was more real the longer the day went on was I'd been hearing from good sources that Pollard was interviewing people in the morning. Like there had been a couple phone calls, and I don't know if these were formal interviews or, hey, person X, sounds like this is probably going to happen. Are you interested? Or if it truly was, hey, sounds like Campbell's gone. Do you want the job? I don't know what those conversations were like. I was not in the room. I don't have access to those phone calls. But what I do know is that if there were calls happening in the morning, Jamie Pollard had a pretty good idea what was going to happen. And to his credit, he went to work and he got a guy in the door the same day. And it's clear him and Jimmy Rogers had a good connection. They had been in contact for a while. And Pollard didn't just have a list in his desk. It seemed like he had a wrist tattooed on his forearm and knew exactly where to go when that day eventually came. When Matt Campbell went on to bigger, better things, he knew which way he wanted to go. But in the moment, stunning. Like, we were standing outside the football facility waiting for Campbell to walk out to see if we could get one last interview with him. And while we're waiting out there in the cold, get a tweet. Yep, it's official. Jimmy Rogers has been hired as the next head coach at Iowa State. Insane timing.
Keith Murphy yesterday mentioned, and with all due respect to Jamie Pollard, he just kind of talked about it, made a decent analogy about, you know, if your wife leaves you, you got a buddy saying, hey, here's the new next girl, like you should go out with her. And it seemed like maybe for the fan base it needed a little bit of time before you but also I understand Jamie Pollard thinking, hey, we want to let the fan base know, and in today's weird world of college football, you got to let your own team know, hey, we got a direction moving forward. There's not a lame duck gray area. You got to move forward and go quickly. Was it too quickly? You were surprised by it. Do you feel like it was too quick? I'm not saying it wasn't the right decision, but would you have waited in hindsight a day or two, or does that even matter?
I think in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't matter a ton, but I would have waited till just Saturday morning. Give people a night to sleep on it. Give people a night to relish on what those 10 years were before they even start to move on. Give us journalists time to write our Matt Campbell's leaving story before we have to write our Jimmy Rogers has been hired story.
Spread the content out for us, please.
Give this journalist who's never really been a part of something like this, give him a chance to build an article of coaching candidates so I could ultimately be wrong.
Yeah.
But no, I think overall it doesn't change a ton. It changed a lot that day. I think it changed a lot that weekend. It was a very emotional weekend. But I think now that he's had his introductory press conference, and a big reason for it, his press conference, 9:30 on Monday morning, he started one-on-one individual player meetings at 11:30 that day. And he's got a lot of them to get through, and he's got a lot of players that he's trying to recruit to stay in Ames. So they really did have to get right to work, and he's gotten right to work. And it seems to me about a week later that the timing of all of that is pretty inconsequential at this time, and now it's just recruit that roster, recruit them to stay.
I want to talk about recruiting that roster in a second, and then we got to talk basketball. But let's start with the introductory press conference. Jimmy Rogers comes in. You're familiarizing yourself with him. Everybody else is as well. I think that introductory press conference, I've been at some that, and different sport, but I was at Fran McCaffrey's, and I was like, yes, sir. I was watching Ben McCullum's, and I was like, okay. I remember being at Todd Licklider's, and I was like, hello? Like, I don't know if this is going to go well. There is something to be said about that first impression. And obviously I used Iowa examples. This is Iowa State. Did he give you what you needed to hear? Did he give Iowa State fans what he needed to hear on Monday morning? From all accounts, I heard he did.
Yeah, I think he hit all the right notes. He referenced like how he's almost too serious sometimes. And he said that he's an intense guy. He's an intense coach. He loves football, but he promises that he's also a happy guy sometimes and just has a bad case of RBF,
which is awesome.
It was little moments like that.
Yeah.
And then he joked that his son's got it too, his 6-year-old son. There were a lot of good moments in that where you could feel that South Dakota State, you could feel that Missouri Valley, upper Midwest intensity. We're going to play between the tackles for 60 minutes and see what happens. You could feel all of that, but you could also sense so much of the genuine gratitude he has that he was able to spend almost 20 years at South Dakota State and work his way up and play for his favorite coach, John Stiegelmeier, and coach under him. It was a really good balance between all of those things, showing the gratitude, but showing that he's here to win, and he's here to pick up where Matt Campbell left off, and he does not indicate any sort of drop-off. He wants day one to go compete for a Big 12 championship, and whether that can happen or not, that's to be decided, but to be able to go out there and say it and make the fan base believe that's all you can ask for on day one on your job.
Jake Brend joining us on Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. Last one football-wise. Player, I won't say defections because it sounds dumb these days, but they happen whether you get a coaching change or not. You mentioned the interviews are going on. A recruit recently, a 4-star offensive lineman, which I can't remember the name right now. You will.
Will Slagle.
Yeah, decommitted, but also kept Iowa State, in play. What do you know? What do you expect? What are you hearing when it comes to? And they're not playing in a bowl game, and I think their reasoning for not playing in a bowl game is much different than Notre Dame's reasoning for not playing in a bowl game. It's more about available bodies and those kind of things than anything else. What are you hearing when it comes to roster retention? If that's a good way to put it.
Better than expected, I think. On Friday, these players, it's worth noting, the players and the staff were almost exclusively kept in the dark. None of them had any idea what was happening. So they wake up Friday morning, or they start hearing rumblings Thursday night, just like we are. And there were players' parents that were reaching out to some of our staff because they didn't know what was going on. So you hear all of that, and there's understandable emotions of shock, of betrayal, of sadness, anger, anything you can think of on Friday night. So you start hearing 17 of the 18 returning starters are all going to go. And of course, on Friday night, everyone's emotional. I think now, as we're almost a week removed, you're starting to hear more rumblings of certain guys that could come back. And not absolutely will come back, but you start hearing more, oh yeah, they're open to coming back. And I actually ran in on the way to the Jimmy Rogers introductory press conference on Monday morning. I stopped for a Red Bull at the local gas station in Ames, and I ran into a player. And I talked to him for about 5 minutes, and he said that Rogers came across really well to the team. And he said, yeah, I'm not going to make any promises on any type of player staying, but there's going to be guys that stay, is essentially what the message I got across from him was. And I think that's a good sign. That's all you can ask for. I'm sure there's still some meetings going on. It's only Wednesday. Yeah. He started these exactly 48 hours ago, essentially. So there's still some players to get through, but I would anticipate some familiar faces being on Iowa State's roster next year, and also probably some familiar faces being on Penn State's roster.
I promise we will get to basketball here in just a second, but I have one more football. Why are you guys taking my tight end coach? Why are you taking my we're losing tight ends on the field. Now we lose the tight end coach. There is an offensive coordinator for Iowa State, a familiar face in Ames. Kind of talk about that hire and your thoughts on him coming back to the Iowa State program.
Yeah, the Detroit Free Press reports that Tyler Roll will be returning to Iowa State as offensive coordinator. This is a guy that played at North Dakota State, was on staff for a decade at North Dakota State, was a part of 6 national championships, the offensive coordinator for 2 of those. Came to Iowa State for just 1 year in 2024. He was the running backs coach, and then got the job after last season with the Lions to be the tight ends coach. To me, this is a home run hire. When you factor in, you're trying to keep a lot of what made the Matt Campbell era successful. One of the best ways to do that is to go get a guy who was there for part of it, and a guy that was there for part of it's going to be able to recruit some players to stay. And I think that's a big win. If you look at Rogers' defensive background and defensive identity, some of the rumors of the defensive coordinator or coordinators that could be coming in, I think they're going to be able to keep a lot of defensive guys because of the identity of him. Offense was going to be more of a question mark. When you can bring in someone who coached these players, who was there for a year and recruited some of the guys, I think that's a big win as far as player retention goes. And his style of running the ball, he was a running back at North Dakota State. We all know how North Dakota State plays football. They run the ball a lot. It's a power team. I think that's going to complement the way Iowa State plays defense as well. I think it's a really good hire.
Jake, if this guy wanted him, part of his organization, the great Dan Campbell, then he's got my sign of approval as well. Hey, let's talk some basketball. And Keith put it great yesterday, and I've been kind of using it, but I don't know what happens tonight. I have an idea of what happens on Thursday, and that doesn't mean it's going to happen, but you have a better thought process for Thursday night than tonight. Let's start with the ladies. A fascinating matchup between number 11 and number 10 at the Hilton Coliseum. A series that Iowa's won 8 of the last 9 of, and I don't think that's not lost on the Cyclone players, I don't think, by any stretch of the imagination.
Not at all. We've seen better Iowa State team. Not better teams than this Iowa State team. I think this is Fenley's best team in a couple decades. But we've seen years where Iowa State is the better team and still lose to Iowa. So you can throw the rankings. I think these teams are almost dead equal. I mean, they're next to each other in the rankings. They're both off to undefeated starts. They've both got familiar faces. I think saying I don't know how this is going to go is the right way to look at it, because we don't know how it's going to go. This feels like a must-have spot for Fenley. I was thinking about it a little bit this morning. The Big 12 is a little bit down this year compared to the past, which bodes well for Iowa State's chance at winning a Big 12 championship. But when you talk further down the road, March Madness seeding, and if you're battling for a 2 seed, if you're battling to be between that 2 and the 3 or the 3 and the 4, a win like this over Iowa, the more wins you can have like this, the better. And it's a massive spot for both teams to try and go pick up that signature win heading into conference play.
Yeah, I love how you say I don't know how this one's going to go. So I have to follow up with a question. Give me your prediction on how this one's going to go.
Home court, I think, will play a factor in this game. And I think the spread opened at 2.5. Wouldn't shock me whatsoever to see it right around that spread. I'll go Iowa State by 6. I think they're playing so well. Audie Crooks, as long as she can stay out of foul trouble, is a total matchup nightmare. But Hannah Stolke has guarded her well before, and Hannah Stolke has guarded her a lot before. So it's not a total unfamiliar, but Audie, in my eyes, has taken such a jump from sophomore to junior year. And to me, if she plays a B or B plus game, I think the Cyclone should be able to pull this one out in Hilton Coliseum.
Yeah, and Kyle Huesmann had a 2-point Cyclone win. You have a 6-point Hawkeye win. You mentioned that matchup. Is there a X factor in this game for you when it comes to something you might not expect, or just an X factor when it comes to the game itself?
I'd go Jada Williams. Jada, it's no secret, was heavily recruited by Jan Jensen also. Seems like her 2 choices were to go to Iowa or to go to Iowa State. She chose Iowa State because of the role that they had for her, and so far that's paid off. She has been a total game changer at point guard, but this will be the biggest atmosphere she's played in her life. No question. And this will be the best team that she's played since she's become the point guard of the Iowa State Cyclones. I think if she can go out and have another one of her 12 and 10 games that she's done a couple times this year, that means she's getting the ball to Audie. I mean, she's getting the ball to Addie, and that means the Cyclones are rolling. If she struggles, though, with turnovers, as she has a couple times, or if she gets sped out of control, that could be how Iowa's able to win this game. Not that it's all on Jada, but I think she's a massive X factor because these are the type of games they brought her in for.
In a weekend full of craziness, there's this bright light coming from West Lafayette, Indiana. And we
forgot about that.
We previewed this game more than like at the other game last week. It was like Alcorn State, we don't care. Let's talk about Purdue. And it was going to take a special effort for them to go. And heck, Nicholas Baer was on the show on Monday saying Mackey Arena is the hardest place he's ever played in. Now, for Cyclones fans watching, he put Hilton Coliseum number 2, but it's hard to go there and win. Y'all went there and won by 23. First off, that had to help with everything else going on in Cyclone athletics. But 2, I think it verified what we've kind of figured out, that this is a really good basketball team.
Not many teams win by 23 points in Mackey Arena. Not many teams win by 23 points on the road against a number 1 team either. There's been one other team to do it, that in the history of the AP poll. Right there is pretty rarefied air for Iowa State. And to me, it surprised me even a little bit. And I've been pretty bullish heading into the season. I think more than a lot of Iowa State fans for some reason, because I would say fan bases get caught up a lot in shiny new toys. And they look at the transfer portal and they want to go watch film and look at stats on guys that they're bringing in. And Iowa State's transfer portal class on paper this last year wasn't flashy. It certainly wasn't sexy. They missed out on Oscar Clough, who averaged 20 points, 9 rebounds a game at South Dakota State. They wanted him, and they missed out on him. We tried to tell Iowa State fans at the time that the staff was not too torn up about it. They had a 1A, 1B plan, and when got Blake Buchanan. Buchanan goes into Mackey Arena, outplays Oscar Clough. And when you're looking at transfer portal rankings, you're not factoring in what's returning. There's no team in America that got a better big 3 in the transfer portal than Taman Lipsey, Joshua Jefferson, Mila Momcilovic. And I think right now, TJ Otzelberger is proving through continuity, through having 3 of the highest levels of players in basketball. He's proving that he's built one of the, if not the best team in college basketball, and they went and proved that with a 23-point win in Mackey Arena on Saturday.
You look at this game against Iowa and you think, does Iowa State have a letdown? And then you look that it's Iowa and you're like, no, they don't. Obviously, if a team goes beats number one ranked team in the country on the road, maybe that next game back it's a sleepy, win a game.
Eastern Illinois.
Yeah, and you're just like, we'll get it done, but it won't be flashy. This is the Cyhawk game, so I don't think there's a letdown. But if Iowa is to pull an upset, like, I think it's the fact of the law of averages where Iowa State has just been silly good shooting the basketball. And I'm a big proponent of the law of averages where eventually you can't shoot that percentage forever. Is that the start of if Iowa's to pull something off? Is that the way it starts is maybe that Iowa State comes back down to earth just shooting the basketball?
Yeah. Like, it's going to happen eventually. Selfishly, I hope it waits another game because I don't even know who they play Sunday. I don't know the opponents between Iowa and West Virginia on January 2nd. It's nobody to worry about. Yeah. It's games where you can withstand some shooting variance kind of going back to the mean. But that is the path for Iowa. The path for Iowa is simple. Don't turn the ball over and hope Iowa State misses threes, because the way Iowa State's going to play, I can guarantee they're going to start the game going into Jefferson, and Jefferson is going to go at Maniau, he's going to go at Banks, he's going to go at Fulgaris, and he should be able to do whatever he wants until Iowa starts to crash, which will leave open threes for the most part. Do those go in? I think that's going to be the gamble that McCollum takes and has to take. And it very well might work. But on the other end, Iowa's going to have to score too. So they're going to have to do a lot well. There's a reason Iowa State's number 2 in KenPom right now. There's a reason they're 13-point favorites, according to KenPom, in this game. Iowa will have to play a near perfect game and hope for some shooting variance to walk out of Hilton with a win.
Yeah, I think if you're an Iowa fan, it's kind of like with Michigan State. You go in there, you try to win, but you don't go crazy if you don't win. Obviously, it's the in-state rival, but the programs are just in different places right now. And that doesn't mean Iowa's not going in the right direction. It just means what TJ's doing at Iowa State right now is at an extremely high level. Last year, around this time, I think because of one of these interviews, you got me to put some of my wife's hard-earned money on Michigan or on Iowa State in the Final Four. I'm about to that point. I'm about to that point, Jake. Can I get your approval? Am I okay? Like she's not watching, so she hates me and hates the show. But do I have your approval?
I think if you didn't bring up last year, then maybe. I'm not that superstitious, but I'm kind of superstitious.
A little superstitious, exactly.
And to phrase it in the way you just did, I don't know if I can approve it. I don't.
But
right now,
text me later.
Right now, I think they're looking. They have all the makings of it.
Yeah,
and the double-edged sword right now of college basketball. The Cinderella might be dead, as we know it, or it might be taking a big step back.
Yep.
If you get real nerdy, look at the analytics of KenPom. There has been 9,000 teams in the history of the KenPom era. This current Iowa State team has the 14th highest net rating of all time. And last year there were, but this is the caveat. Last year there were 6 teams in college basketball with a net rating of 30 or better. For the most part, in the last 25 years, there's maybe been 1 or 2. So what that shows me is the top and the smarter are getting smarter and they're getting better.
Yeah.
And the hope for Iowa State fans is hopefully you've got your best team in 25 years in an era where hopefully it's a little easier to make the Final Four as a top team. And it's less fluky than it's been in the past. That's just my professional opinion on where basketball might be headed. No. But at the same time, I kind of hope that's not true because March Madness is awesome for all the reasons of the Cinderella. It's just a double-edged sword.
Yep, it's where the sport has gone to, and you saw it last year. I mean, it's one of those things where if you have a kid filling out a bracket and they like to take the higher seeds, it's probably you're going to do better off than people trying to figure out the upsets. So, Jake, what I took from that is that was you're okay for me to do that. So, and it's okay because if I lose, I can just say, "But honey, Jake Brend told me to," and she didn't know, so it's okay. So you're my.
That's
scapegoat.
gotten a lot of people in trouble over the years. You should have. You should have
sure
followed the
has.
bigger than 12 picks because that's never happening again. I hit it at a clip of like 68%, I think.
Hey, I
on
texted
Big
you
12 games against the spread.
I texted you recently about Arizona State. I thank you, my friend.
I was right.
I thank you, my friend. So, well done there as well. Hey, I appreciate you as always. Get some rest, all those kind of things, which is impossible because your next
Friday.
2 days are, Friday. Sit back, relax, enjoy the weekend, all those kind of things. I mean this. I watch, and people that need to get their Iowa State stuff on this side of the state. If you're watching the Quad Cities, Cyclone Fanatic is where it's at. You killed it, man. You did a great job. I'm proud of you. Keep doing good work, and we'll catch up with you real soon.
Appreciate it, Dazzo. Thanks for having me.
That is the one and only Jake Brend joining us right here on Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. We could have done a 2-hour show with Jake today. That's the kind all week we could have. But so many things going on. Great insight from Jake Brend. And, of course, 2 big games tonight, 6 o'clock, tomorrow, 7 p.m., Iowa State and Iowa. It's college basketball at its finest. So we got more to get to. Coming up next on the show, there's a new recruit for the University of Iowa football program that's from right here in our own backyard. Gavin Stecker from Bettendorf officially committing to Iowa yesterday, a 2027 kid. He's going to join us and talk about his decision, the pipeline from Bettendorf to Iowa, and a whole bunch more. That's next right here on Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. You're watching us on a Wednesday in the QC. We'll be back right after this.
Give me the keys. Learning to drive can be stressful for both the student and, yes, the parent as well. Relax. There's an easy way to avoid the stress. Skiles Driving School in East Moline has been helping new drivers hit the road with confidence for over 20 years. Whether you're a teen earning your first license or an adult looking for behind-the-wheel training, we've got you covered. Their certified instructors are patient, experienced, and use modern vehicles equipped for safety and comfort. From classroom instruction to real-world driving, we make learning safe, affordable, and even fun. Call 309-278-0098 or visit skylesdriving.com. Skiles Driving School. Get in, buckle up, drive your future forward.
Welcome back to Off the Air with Matt Randazzo here on a Wednesday in the Quad Cities. Last Wednesday, a week ago today, was National Signing Day. College football programs around the nation putting together their 2026 recruiting class, including the Iowa Hawkeyes. Kirk Ferentz and company signing a really, really good recruiting class in 2026. I know they were excited about that, but Kirk Ferentz and company already working on 2027, and that started yesterday by landing the commitment of a Quad Citian, a Bettendorf Bulldog, and a really good linebacker here in the state of Iowa. Gavin Stecker joins us right now on Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. First and foremost, Gavin, congratulations. It says it across your chest. You're committed to be an Iowa Hawkeye. What does that mean to you?
It's pretty amazing, Growing up, I was always been a fan, and then coming in now, being able to eventually play for them, play for Coach Ferentz and that elite defense, I think it's really something special.
Take me through the decision, the thought process, all of that. What other schools were involved, and then what was it about Iowa that stood out the most to you?
So I've been talking to Iowa State, K-State, Minnesota, and Kansas really, and then I think Iowa State and K-State obviously had those big coaching changes, so I think they had the stability. They had Ferentz has been there for 26, 27 years-ish. So I think just the stability there was really something that stuck out to me, and that kind of drew me there. And then Coach Wallace has put linebackers in the NFL almost every year since he's been there, and they've just always been really elite when it comes to defense and linebackers. So
Talk about growing up in the state and in this area. Obviously, we talked before we started. You've grown up a Hawkeye fan. Talk about that angle of it. That pay a lot of. Did that factor in your decision a lot, or did you open it up to everybody and then make the best decision for you? Talk about your fandom, if you will, for the Iowa Hawkeyes growing up.
So I was like trying to keep it neutral, trying to see everybody at the same level, but it's pretty hard coming from here and seeing everyone else love the Hawkeyes around here, and then I'm trying to stay neutral, but everyone else is kind of pushing that way from this area, especially Pat. Pat was really on me about that.
We'll talk about Mr. Anger here in a second. Gavin Stecker joining us right now on Off There with Matt Randazzo. Gavin, you look at that program and you mentioned the stability. You look around college football and it's crazy. And transfer portals and NIL and coaches coming and going. What did you see in Iowa City? You talked about stability. You've been up there. You've seen it firsthand. Talk about that with the Iowa Hawkeyes. What have you seen in Iowa City when you've gone for visits and camps and things like that?
I'd say they're really consistent. They have a standard and they have a culture that I've seen every time I've been up there. Like they're trying to win every game, and Kinnick's a tough place to play, and they're trying to stay in there, stay in the fight, and then off the field they're just always working. Like I've been to a workout and a practice, and they're always working, always going, and something I really like to see. And then Coach Wallace, when his practices, they're crisp, and then they're always working, they're always moving. That's something I really liked. It always seems to be super organized and consistent when I've been up there.
You look at that defense, and you talked about Coach Ferentz and Coach Wallace, and obviously Phil Parker does an amazing job. You look at Iowa, and it starts with defense. Talk about that as a linebacker. I mean, there's some schools you look at and you think, wow, I'm going to go throw the football around, or that's the offensive school. Do you look at Iowa as that place and that program that you want to be part of on the defensive side of the football?
I'd say so. Like their defense has been elite every year that Phil Parker and Ferentz have been there. I'd say that's something huge for me, and especially so they're in the 4-2-5, similar to how we are at Bettendorf, and I think that also is huge. Just they have elite production every year, and I want to hope to continue that when I go up there.
Gavin, you have a big decision to make. You did, and you made it. Who helped you through the process? Who did you lean on? Who did you talk to when it came to making a decision that's a big one? I don't know how. It's amazing how 17-year-olds and everybody think like that. I had enough trouble making my lunch when I was 17 years old, more or less making a decision like this. Who helped you along when it came to this decision?
I talking with my parents about it. Like they're obviously older than me, so just leaning on them for support like this. And then Coach Frecking, he's back now, so being able to talk to him, and he's really been giving me some guidance. And then just leaning on people who've done the college experience and who know what it's like to make this decision. So
see, I was on board with everything, Gavin, but then you brought up Coach Frecking. I don't know if you should be listening to that man when it comes to anything in life. Maybe football. I'll give him football. Other than that, run it by me, whatever he says to you, because you got to be careful with Coach Frecking. No, I'm just kidding. You mentioned Coach Frecking, that staff at Bettendorf. How have they prepared you for what's next, for what's to come? Because it is a football program that over the last 3-4 decades, maybe longer, has pumped out a ton of talent that's gone to the college level.
So, I mean, Coach Wiley's he's had Pat, he had Gableman before him, he's had all sorts of elite linebackers, and I think the standard that they have at that position and on defense especially has just brought me to raise my game up and forced me to produce. And I see all the guys up on the weight room wall, and I'm trying to get up there. So
Oh, I love it. You mentioned Pat Anger, obviously. Now I call him one of the voices of the Hawkeyes. I call him the face of media in the state of Iowa. The guy's all over the place calling state championship games, obviously the color commentator for the Hawkeye radio network. You mentioned him being in your ear. He can be influencing a little bit. What has he been like during this process, and not just during the recruiting process, but during football to lean on as somebody who knows the position really well? I think he was probably a teammate of your dad's back in the day, which shows how old he is now. Pat, if you're watching this, you're an old man. What has Pat Anger been like for you and being around with this connection with the University of Iowa?
Since I've been talking to Pat more, it's always, when you're gonna commit? You gonna commit yet? And so every time I saw him, that was that. And then I think in football season, it was really helpful. I mean, he told me he was gonna wait to watch my film till after I committed, so I had to. But no, he's been really helpful, especially like when seeing him, he'd give me some pointers of what he saw last Friday, and he'd talk to me about what the Iowa staff was saying when he was meeting them with media, and so yeah, he was really helpful.
You look at Bettendorf, there's a pipeline from Bettendorf to Iowa City. Gavin, there's also a pipeline from the Quad Cities to Iowa City. And I go back to even Pat's days when you had Julian Vandervelde and Brett Greenwood and Colin Sandeman and Mitch King and Julian. All those kind of people were at the University of Iowa. Can you talk about that connection? Logan Lee of late. There's a good pipeline from our area, not just Bettendorf, but the Quad Cities to Iowa City. And I'm sure you've seen that in the last couple of years as well.
Even Bettendorf put Caden Bird there last year. Like, I think if you get the offer from Iowa, everybody here wants you to go up there. And I mean, I obviously wanted to go up there a lot. And I think the community being behind it just makes the decision a lot easier.
Gavin Stecker, future Hawkeye, Bettendorf linebacker, joining us right now and off the air with Matt Randazzo. Gavin, did you do anything to, I don't want to say celebrate, but you make your decision? Do you take a deep breath? Do you get a nice meal? Does mom and dad take you out to dinner? Is Coach Wiley, treating you to ice cream? Was there anything that or was it just a deep sigh of relief knowing that decision's out of the way and you know what's going on in the future?
It was more a sigh of relief. I didn't really, nothing special, just because. I made it public at 8 a.m, so it was kind of hard to get some big celebration before school. But
well, this weekend, tell the family to celebrate a little bit. People watching around the state, they want to know what kind of linebacker is Gavin Stecker. I know this is maybe a harder question, but can you give a little scouting report on yourself? What are Iowa fans going to see? What's the University of Iowa getting? Obviously, not a finished product. There's things you want to improve on and get bigger and better, all that kind of stuff. But tell people about your style of football and what kind of linebacker you are at Bettendorf High School right now.
flow downhill, make plays, and tackling's my thing, man. Love to go around and hit people, get them on the ground, and make plays. So downhill and hitting people, that's all I got to do, really. So
when did that become a thing? When you were young, when did you realize? Were you just tackling everything at the age of 5 years old? When did you become a tackling machine?
So I started playing football in 4th grade, and ever since then I've just been running around hitting people. So
I love it. I love it. I think the Hawkeyes are going to love it as well. Before we let you go, I want to talk to you some fun stuff as we kind of get out of here. If you weren't playing football and getting ready to play football at a high level and you had to play another sport, I'm going to let you pick. What other sport would you be wanting to play? You don't have to be great at it, but what other sport would you want to play if you could pick another sport to play in college?
college, I think if I was going to Iowa in college, I'd probably want to wrestle,
Did you wrestle at all?
Yeah, when I middle school and then freshman year, but I had to start getting bigger and cutting weights not to move for that.
No.
So
I understand. I have a feeling you'd be a pretty good wrestler as well. If you could have dinner with one person in the entire world, you can pick it. Anybody, who would it be and why?
Jack Campbell's been looking pretty good for Detroit right now. I might have to go have dinner with him.
Hey, right here, right? You're talking my language when it comes to Captain Jack. I love Captain Jack at Iowa, and now as a Lions fan, I love him in the NFL as well. Give me a thumbs up or thumbs down on these. Christmas music, thumbs up or thumbs down?
It'd be snowing, but I'll say a thumbs up.
All right. I like it. Eggnog with the Christmas coming. Eggnog. Thumbs up, thumb down. Have you ever had it?
Yeah, I'll give it a thumbs up. It's kind of like bubble gum, but it's all right.
All right. I like it. Probably an easy one, but you're an athlete, so you don't probably eat them as much as I do. Christmas cookies. What's the favorite Christmas cookie? I know it's a thumbs up, but what's that favorite Christmas treat around the holidays that you're maybe cheating on a little bit and having too many of?
Oh, well, she loves to make Christmas cookies. Like, I could go upstairs right now and there's about 4 tubs of them. So it's really whatever she's cooking up right now. So.
You're not picky. As long as it's a Christmas cookie, you're good. Hey, if there's a cheat meal in the, like, if you want to just be a kid and just pig out one day, where's the place to go? You know, Quad Cities, Bettendorf, whatever. Where's your pick to click when it comes to go have a good meal?
If I'm really trying to sit down and have a meal, Jimmy's Pancake House, I love to get a big stack of pancakes there. But if I'm going for something quick, I'm at McDonald's all day. So,
what's your McDonald's order? Like, if you're hungry, what's your McDonald's order? Is it something stupid?
I mean, my dad and my wallet might say so, but it's normally breakfast is probably 2 hotcakes and 2 McBiscuits and then a smoothie, and then dinner or like lunchtime is normally 2 quarter pounders and a nugget and a fry and then a shake. So, trying to get the calories in.
Do it, buddy. Hey, if you ever want to get the calories in, come hang out with me because my lunch buffets are something that I shouldn't be doing at my age. Hey, Gavin, I appreciate it. I can't wait to cover you next year, Bettendorf. You're going to have a great season. And then I can't wait to see you at the University of Iowa. Don't let Pat bully you. Slap him. He's just a big puppy dog. He's one of those, like a dog gets really excited. If you just hit him on the nose really hard, he chills out a little bit. So do that. And I appreciate you. Good luck next year, and I appreciate your time.
You too.
All right. That is Gavin Stecker, future Iowa Hawkeye, Bettendorf linebacker. And I love the pipeline to the University of Iowa. I say it all the time. And also to Illinois. Any of our kids around the Quad Cities that go other places, Iowa State has been really good at getting Quad City kids. So Bettendorf will be pulling for Gavin Stecker in Iowa City, but you watch, the entire Quad Cities will be pulling for that young man coming up at the University of Iowa soon. We got more to get to. You're watching OTA on a Thursday right here in the Wednesday. Excuse me, it's Wednesday. We'll be back right after this.
Hello, Dan Pearson here of FCA. Our team is thrilled to support Off the Air with our good friend Matt Randazzo. We share the view of the power of sport when it comes to relationships, including the influence of the coach. FCA believes the coach is the most influential person in America. Matt celebrates local coaches and athletes. His content is informational, insightful, and inspirational. Our Fellowship of Christian Athlete team loves partnering with Off the Air with Matt Randazzo while we engage, equip, and empower coaches and athletes in our 23 counties. FCA, the heart and soul in sports.
View from the West, the podcast covering Illinois high school football.
It's going to be a hard-hitting game. It's going to be great football.
Weekly analysis and reaction from around the western side of the state of Illinois.
This is the game we had circled when the year started.
Follow along on YouTube and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts.
It's big-time football out there tonight, and I know we can play big-time football.
View from the West. We got you covered.
Are you looking for the Quad City's best chips and salsa? There's only one dude to turn to.
Right on.
Snoop. Hand-cut chips, fried fresh with that crunch you've come to love. And the most addicting salsa with delicious fresh ingredients each and every time. Pick up your chips and salsa, queso, enchiladas, and much more at the Stern Center in Rock Island. To place your order, simply call the man himself. It's Snoop at 309-314-8197 and find out for yourself what the rest of the Quad Cities already loves. Welcome back to Off the Air with Matt Randazzo here on a Wednesday in the Quad Cities. Some sad news to talk about this morning. We found out yesterday that the great Jim Albracht passed away unexpectedly at the age of 74. Jim Albracht is a legend when it comes to media here in the Quad Cities, television, radio, everything in between. I grew up listening to, watching Jim Albracht, and that's one thing I always tell people in this market. When I was growing up loving sports, I could watch Jim Albracht and Tom Cornelis and Don Sharp and Dan Pearson and Dan Burridge and all these guys and see what it was like and watch it at a very high level. And Jim Albracht was one of those guys. He did it at a high level at WQAD as the sports director there. Obviously WOC and Albracht in the AM. He was the play-by-play guy for the Wheelers for so many years. He was the pregame host forever for the Hawkeye Radio Network. So what Jim did in the business speaks for itself. But what I want to talk about is Jim Albracht, the person. I don't know anyone that didn't like Jim Albracht. He always had a smile on his face. He was always optimistic. He was always upbeat. He was always looking at the good in things and not dwelling on the bad. As a young guy who got into the business, if I needed anything, Jim Albracht was a phone call away to help me out. If I wanted an interview, if I had a question about something, Jim was there to help, and he always was there to help. And he always had a smile on his face and usually a joke or two along the way. And that's what I loved about Jim Albracht. I became the pregame host for the Hawkeye Tailgate Show this season, and it was a gig that Jim Albracht did at such a high level for so long. So here on this show, I reached out to him. I said, hey, come on the show and talk about it. And that's exactly what he did in late August. And he was living down in Kansas City, and he's 74 years old. And in this clip I'm going to show you, I mean, he looks amazing, in best shape. I mean, I hope I look like that when I'm 50, more or less 74 years old. But here's a little snippet of our conversation that we had late in August. Jim Albracht joins me right now from Kansas City, down in Kansas City. How are you, my friend? Good to see you.
Hey, life is really good. Two of my daughters live down here, so we decided to move down here about 3 years ago, and got a couple little guys running around, and I still have three granddaughters back in the Quad Cities, and they come down and I go up, and so it's a retirement fantasy. That's what it is. I mean, I have people tell me, gosh, I'm going to have to stop working in a couple of years. What do you think I should do? And I try to set them down and tell them this is an opportunity. It's not like you don't go sit on the couch. Do what you've never been able to do before. And like I always say, you never see anybody in a walker on the beach. All right, so you better go now. I mean, like I say, the guys in the network, they're I mean, come on, Dolph. I mean, come on, Dolph. I mean, it's like when I see Dolph, I go, Dolph, you're a legend. You know that, right? He goes, get out of here. So it's like, and Eddie's just his own story. And now you got Pat, and Pat's just this great guy. So it was, when I reflect back on all the things that I did, including the show and all of that, I feel lucky first. I don't feel like, oh, I'm accomplished. That I say, count your blessings, man. Yeah. Count your blessings.
One of the blessings we had here in the Quad Cities was that man right there, Jim Albracht, unfortunately passing away at the age of 74 yesterday. Our thoughts are with his family, his friends. So many of them I know at WQAD that are heartbroken about the news, but he just said it. He lived his life to his fullest up until the very end, and he was enjoying retirement and those grandkids and everything else. So again, our thoughts and prayers go out to his family and friends. And Jim Albracht, a legend in the Quad Cities, unfortunately passing away at the age of 74. We'll be right back.
Give me the keys. Learning to drive can be stressful for both the student and, yes, the parent as well. Relax. there's an easy way to avoid the stress. Skiles Driving School in East Moline has been helping new drivers hit the road with confidence for over 20 years. Whether you're a teen earning your first license or an adult looking for behind-the-wheel training, we've got you covered. Their certified instructors are patient, experienced, and use modern vehicles equipped for safety and comfort. From classroom instruction to real-world driving, we make learning safe, affordable, and even fun. Call 309-278-0098 or visit skylesdriving.com. Skiles Driving School. Get in, buckle up, drive your future forward.
Welcome back to Off the Air with Matt Randazzo here on a Wednesday in the Quad Cities. It's been a fun, busy Wednesday, to say the least. It's the Cyhawk game tonight between the Iowa women and the Iowa State women, number 11 versus number 10, and we got you set for it. Kyle Huesmann to start the show, Jake Brend to talk about that game, the men's game on Thursday, and then also a crazy week in names with Matt Campbell heading to Penn State, taking out a full size ad in the Des Moines Register and thanking the fans today, and then also Jimmy Rogers being named the new head coach of the Iowa State football program. So it was great to catch up with both of those gentlemen as we get ready for a fun week with the Cyhawk series. Also, thank you to Gavin Stecker, Bettendorf linebacker, new commit to the University of Iowa. Really good kid. And he's going to do some good things. I'm excited about that for sure. So check that interview out if you missed it. And then we just talked about him. RIP to Jim Albracht. I never thought I'd be saying that today. Yes, 74 years old, but man, he was doing so well. In the best shape of his life, it looked like. I was jealous about how good of shape he was. So we will definitely miss Jim Albracht. We'll talk more about Jim throughout this week, maybe next week as well. Kind of have some of his friends on to talk about him and remember the legacy that is Jim Albracht here in the Quad Cities. So more to come on that for sure. I want to thank again you guys for watching the show once again, as you do each and every day, whether you're on YouTube, whether you're on X, however, the audio platforms, however you're partaking in the show, we really do appreciate it. Tomorrow, we've got a jam-packed show. Scott Docterman, Rob Brooks, the voice of the Iowa women's basketball program, will be on talking about the game that is tonight. So great insight from him after the game. Ness guests. People wonder, where's Ness guests? Ness will be on tomorrow. We're going to record that today and tomorrow. My coaching responsibilities with the 8th graders and the 5th graders and all that kind of stuff kind of bump things back a little bit for me this week as well when it comes to that. So, so much to get to tomorrow on the show, and then still possibly taking the show on the road on Friday. More on that coming up tomorrow as well. So thank you guys for watching. We appreciate it, and we will see you guys back here tomorrow on Off the Air with Matt Randazzo.